We've got a new website. Here it is. And I totally stole this idea from Call Her Daddy, which is the number 2 podcast. And then the number 1 podcast is Joe Rogan, who obviously spent a lot less effort than our website. But, they're doing something all right. So we stole it. So the first thing is we've got a tagline. The tagline is open source every week. We are creators. Open source is what we're doing. Victor's here. Victor and I are working on another project, and we are dragging along the ideas of open source, build in public, share ideas, memorialize decisions, asynchronous communication. These are just open source ideas. And, Zoom, the Zoomers, the Zoom generation, the COVID generation, the work from home generation, these people are just learning the same thing, just slowly. And open source people, we've been doing this for decades. So that's the first 2 words, open source. And the second is every week. We are building your career. You're not going to make any meaningful change in your career or your products or your life if you're not doing something every week. And guess what? This show's every week. You're here every week. That's great. I appreciate you.
I think it at least opens the topics up. So it's not just Web3. I think that's fantastic. There's so many topics and places in the open source space that, you hear about on the news on a week-to-week basis that otherwise wouldn't have made its way here now.
So this is also, a verb and a noun. Open source is a noun, but it's a verb, baby. Open source every week. That also means release every week. One of my life goals for this year is to write weekly reports for my open source work, just like my day job. So I have a file and I just work on the journal. It's this same format that I use for my day job, right? And you have a weekly thing, things you're waiting on, action, priorities, and why not? Next. NFTs are officially dead on X. Crypto Twitter has kicked us off.
I'm super upset. I'm mad about stuff.
You paid big money for that picture, right? So
Yeah. Who are they to change their platform on me? That's what I want to know.
I wonder if we should just make hexagons inscribed. That could be a fun open source project.
I like it. Nate Alex, one of the OGs in the space, he just cropped his picture to look like a hexagon. Since we're on the hexagon conversation, you can see his profile picture and the hexagon he made. And to prove that NFTs are officially dead, you'll see his new NFT project called Primitives. So it's a 2 for 2. 1 in the bush is worth 2 in the hand, and apparently we just proved it. Super, super cool dude. OG in the space. He spent millions of dollars on NFTs. And just a cool guy. So I'm going to hit him up and tell him he can thank you for all of the millions of dollars he's lost.
Yeah, just tell him where to send the hate mail.
Absolutely. Shanghai, right?
Yeah, Shanghai. That's right. I got 2 addresses. That's hexagons. You get both sides of the story here on Community Service Hour. Here's the Mercedes in-car app that shows NFTs on your dash. The Mercedes-Benz M-Bucks collectible app.
I think Mercedes is going too far.
All right, this is official. So when you've got mercedes-benz.com/FAQ, and the top question is, what is an NFT? Mercedes-Benz. So we lost Twitter, but we got Mercedes-Benz. So
Sounds like a win to me.
So next, we've got some hot take requests or interview requests. So let's be clear with 037 here. Which one of these we want?
I've worked years on this for both of them, and they do use a flavor of NFTs. So I do want your opinion, definitely, and I do want exploitation of these smart contracts, trying to hack them and stuff like that. The repos do have a lot of documentation. I guess some context, if I may, and I don't mean to offend anybody. I never was a fan of the whole generate a whole bunch of pictures, try to sell them, type of thing, the usual thing you see in the NFT ecosystem. I was more of a fan of the whole receipt aspect, right? You buy something, you have like a receipt, there's like metadata. For Qumosi, this was a site that already had a use case without the need of smart contracts. This was around 2018. And it goes under the lens of open source projects, really. Like, I was in college back then. I needed a place to upload my projects. But the thing is, I never found a good platform that allows me to put, just about everything a project may have. Sometimes the project has code, sometimes it has designs, 3D models, that kind of stuff. So we made Qumosi. Now, the smart contract lens was really just for a payment gateway. As you're making open source projects, I felt the need to have some level of funding. And my conceptual idea then was, if I make a project and I want to be funded, similar to like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, etc., I need a way that's non-disruptive, a way that's not, collecting fees or anything like that, a way where no one can really suspend me. Now they own something that says that they donated. And from then I can use that to, like, for instance, provide extra support and that kind of stuff, the usual perks that go with sponsoring an open source project. There was a lot of problems with this model even. We wanted a way to limit spam on the platform. The idea is someone else that's already on the site has a bunch of invite keys. They can give those out to people that are suitable, and then they can join the site like that with that key. But this wasn't really great from a growth point of view. But in our platform, we want as much users, but we want to minimize garbage projects, if that makes sense. And so the smart contract, what it does is it has a self-governing ecosystem. It's permissionless in the manner where if there's a lot of minting activity going on, it raises this fee that's associated with minting that's supposed to dissuade people from continuously minting random things.
It's a dampening effect. So it's a velocity limit / dampening effect.
There's no trade pair or anything like that. You don't go to Uniswap to like trade USD for it. There's a faucet, and we've talked about this before. It has like a negative decay model where everyone's able to get some amount of coins on a day-to-day basis. So I've tried to make it as permissionless and free, quote unquote, as possible, with time being like your method of, sacrificing in order to use the system. The burn fee is applied then and there. The way it's collected is actually thrown into another pool. They can stake, but the rewards come directly from the burn pool. If there's a lot of staking going on, then the burn fees are going to rise. If there's a lot of burning going on, then the stake rewards rise. So they're meant to basically defy one another. This is like the project that I've been working on to kind of influence, the open source space, to create project, but also have a mechanism to get funded without, any sort of intervention from like a third party.
You're giving it to me from the inside out, right? You're giving me how the project started, what work you did, the things you built, and then the problems you solved, which is exactly the opposite of how other people see it. The other people have a problem, then they have a new idea, and then, you're selling them on why they need to do different.
A lot of projects, they're kind of, obscure with their motives, stuff like that. In this case, the motive is very clear. Like especially from a profit point of view, it's very clear. And I did this, before even the deployment date was strategic. Like when I deployed it, all this talk about the IRS and these new regulations coming in, the requirements for backdoors, that was all strategic. I wanted to avoid all that and have ex post facto on my side. Exactly. We're trying to make it easy to understand as possible. We're looking at like other white papers, see how they portray their language and stuff like that.
Yeah. Start with the Bitcoin white paper.
We're looking at that thing like hawks right now. Yeah. The language, the way it explains a lot of the calculations, linguistic, and most of our sections are based off of the Bitcoin white paper.
I want to make sure that this is presented well enough to the customers, because the customers, they're here again for the projects. So the projects better be on point. And I've seen that. I love the timeline view. That's really the main feature here. Everything we just talked about is just tokenomics, but the product itself is really, it's a beautiful timeline that shows the story of building products. And I've just seen a great tribute to Facebook. Everybody hates Facebook, and this person's like, I'm going to tell you how I feel about Facebook, but first give me a minute. And they say, what I love about it is it's a journal, and you can scroll from top to bottom and you can see your life in reverse. And that's interesting. And X is missing that. if X had channels the way that YouTube has channels and it allows you to stay in different lanes. On YouTube, you can have 3 channels. You can have your personal, you can have your work. I have a channel for Community Service Hour. If you just care about this and you don't care about me, great. It's all, it's autoplays, goes together. But Facebook sort of does, and it's just a different experience. Qumosi has this. That's nice. It keeps it on topic. You can segment one project from another project. It's got a timeline. It's visual. It's like it's so close to what Twitter could have been. So for the people that are interested in that want to visually show off their projects, have journals, right, following things and getting specifically involved in different parts of the journey of it, similar to Kickstarter too, those are the people that are coming. And then when they come in, they're either getting an invite, and the invite has got some limit attached to it, right? Enforced by tokens or, a negative feedback loop. This can all be implemented. It can be quantized, right? So the way you quantize this is today, everybody gets 1 invite this week. In a few weeks, everybody gets 4 invites. And that is meeting all of the requirements you just gave. I mean, I understand how this works from a token perspective, but explaining to my mom, I can't figure that out yet.
Definitely. So I have a few comments on that take. So one thing we really honed in on, and I'm glad we did this, was we made it very easy to add new plugins and new renderers. Like if we wanted to, for instance, we already have this, like a Wolfram Alpha integration, it takes merely 5 minutes maybe for us to look at the site and go, okay, we can easily add this as a widget, done. And then lastly, why we even would use the smart contract. So there's another aspect to this. I didn't really highlight this, but let's say the site just disappeared tomorrow. Let's say my registrar decides to suspend me. We wanted all this data to just live on the internet somehow, even if let's say the entire system were to just disappear the next day. And that was very important to me because someone had maybe a copy of it, maybe a copy of a project or the JSON artifact associated with it, they can still go back and verify that, okay, this was indeed what this person intended to push out. I guess another way you could look at this is GitHub, right? So everybody trusts GitHub. Everybody has all their stuff on GitHub. What's going to happen in the day where Microsoft decides to change their terms of service and suspend all your accounts for for instance, doing security research, right? You're uploading exploits and stuff like that. And then GitHub goes, no, that's not allowed.
Yeah. And GitHub is beautiful, and it is Git underneath, which is more beautiful. And everybody who's using GitHub properly is having a full copy of the history. And I guess that's what you want too. I mean, you can even deliver this over Git or over IPFS, or, various protocols are supporting the immutable anti-censorship that you want. Actually, Victor's here.
I did.
Victor is working on NameFi, so I wanted to tell O37 about this real fast, from the DNS layer.
Obviously, I've looked at things like ENS and stuff like that to kind of have a more user-friendly way to kind of express the so-called address book. I've looked at things like unstoppable domains. And even outside the Ethereum ecospace, I've looked at all sorts of other forms of DNS, like, for instance, onions, right? You could have vanity onions, but it's more cryptographic than it is me just going to a registrar and going, hey, here's my information, rent me this name. But yeah, there's a huge risk to DNS, of course. Depending on what TLD you use, ICANN's always changing up the game, right? I don't know if you guys saw recently, they did the whole internal TLD, which is in my opinion, ridiculous.
Right, the 192.168 of DNS.
Different DNS servers can manipulate the responses, and if you mistakenly trust it, there's DNS hijacking, of course. At the IP level, it's also problematic from that point of view.
DNS intrinsically is unsafe, subject to DNS hijacking. I can see that that's a huge risk if we want to use it for resolving wallets, for example. If you want to resolve bank accounts, that's a problem. Talking about what we do here, I'm a friend of William. We know each other for years and work on Ethereum standardization a little bit together and other things as well. And right now, my day job is a founder of NameFi. So NameFi is for future names, future internet names. We bring domains on chain as NFT. And it's very interesting. Today's topic is NFTs are officially dead. I see that as a prank. I think I'm very, very very bullish about NFT in general. We specifically use NFT to hold the domain names ownership in our products. Ideally, you should be able to own domains and as cheap as possible, and then you should be able to do it as safe as possible. Whenever people want to refer to you, they refer to a name, it always resolve to you. Like, of course, there's an ideal world version. At least right now, transferring domains is very antique, the approach. Basically, you have to take this auth code from somewhere. Who knows, like, whether there's eavesdrop, you take it and then you show it to your registrar show it to your registry, and then get this through. This whole process is very out of date and then unsafe at all. So we're trying to solve this by introducing blockchain in this particular case. So yeah, that's basically what NameFi does. You can go to namefi.io to give it a try. The general theme is that we heavily rely on the standard of NFT, thanks to William and many people who have built the NFT standards. And we believe that NFT is the future. We have seen NFT being used for many things. Now I think it's a good time to put NFT in some real world assets usage, being able to solve a real world problem. A good way to demonstrate the blockchain being useful.
I got a quick question. So I remember there was a registrar, Google owns it, right? Google domains, they popped up, and then everyone kind of just transferred their stuff over, and then they disappeared. They're like, hey, we're not doing this anymore. And then I think everyone's domains got transferred to like another party without, So my curiosity is, so let's say people move all their domains here, and then NameFi decides, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Is there still like a route forward for, current people that have already transferred their domain to continuously be able to like renew their domains and whatnot and ensure ownership?
First of all, yes, definitely. What you said is the case. And even for Google case, the situations that they sold it to someone else, and then you can still renew it in the Squarespace. Of course, you like to have Google service and their brand and your trust of them. So that's gone, unfortunately, but at least in a current DNS setup, you can still renew it. Usually they'll sell it to another businesses, and then that's how it ends up. The ultimate recourse is that there's this governance body called ICANN, which is a nonprofit governing the whole process. So if actually a registrar go bankrupt and then no one is taking over, ICANN will actually designate a registrar for them and then do this transfer all over together. Yeah, so there's a recourse for that. However, in the real world, if there's already usage and use cases like where it gets tractions, have a lot of users, it's an asset itself because people are continuously paying into it. So there's an economic incentive to have someone will come up and step up and take over that relationship and start serving you. I think the benefit of using blockchain is that at least you're very clear and transparent who you are trusting and to what extent you're trusting them. With that, it is a progress, I would say, for our whole industry. It's not perfect, but it's better than the incumbent state of art.
That makes perfect sense to me. I got another question. This one's a little bit harder. How do you handle abuse cases? Because there's going to be a lot of cases where, like, let's say people are registering domains for like phishing. Someone has a service, legitimate use case, but maybe some countries don't really align with their availability and they want them taken down.
So there's this standard ICANN process when it comes to like brand dispute, which is the major one when domain could get in trouble. If there's other kind of situations, I think that process called UDRT, I can use this governance process that we will, because we are still dealing with ICANN domains, so we'll be following that ultimately. So in that aspect, it's no different than any other registrar. I can see that you're very familiar with the domain industry. Are you an investor of domains, or are you like a business operator or anything?
So I squat on a lot of domains, but then what I do is I turn them into actual projects. I have that tendency. This is just kind of my opinion, but one thing I really like about this whole gluing DNS to like the Ethereum ecosystem is not only do you have the same power cryptographically as something like a .onion, you also have the nice cushion ability of putting in an actual domain name. Like it's not like a public key anymore or like a vanity public key. It's an actual domain name that has the same cryptographic protections behind it. So this is very cool. This is a very cool project.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I think our goal is to kind of push the world a little bit better, like one step at a time.
So I did see some news about GoDaddy, I think, partnering with DNS. I'm not sure where that went. I think I saw it like really recently. Yeah, like the compatibility aspect like is something that definitely threw me off into adopting Ethereum and DNS. If there's no major support, then, you know, I'm kind of like out of luck when in terms of like being able to grab like a huge audience group.
Now that we see GoDaddy putting a vote there, it's a big vote in ENS, a big vote in Ethereum. And just like you said, it's a big vote in cryptography. So I'm very, very positive and optimistic in the future of this. NFTs are definitely not dead. We depend on NFT. This is 7 year as your 10-year roadmap. You famously put out 10-year roadmap. 7th year, I am executing your plan.